into the archive as a genre legend goes to its first film festival in The Interview. Yes, good afternoon, good morning, good evening. Myself, Ewan Spence, welcomes you to The Interview. A chance to look back over 2 decades of podcasting and interviewing that I have done with people who all have their own story to tell. It's also going to be a place where we have new interviews in the near future with more stories to tell, people to discover and emotions to share. But for right now, we're going to revisit another moment from my archive. Not every actor in a film takes part in the promotional side of things, although with the rise of social media, that's becoming far more prevalent in today's world of big budgets and massive measurable returns from the internet. So it's common for everybody on the cast and many of the higher echelons of the crew to hit the road and sell the show. That wasn't always the case. With the premiere of The Divide taking place in Austin some 13 years ago, I was astounded to discover that it was Michael Biehn's first film festival. Someone who's a well-known name in genre films. You're looking at things like Terminator, like Aliens, The Abyss. And he'd never done one before on the promotional circuit. He'd always been asked, and we'll get into that as you'll hear in a moment. But he decided that for The Divide, that he would break that duck and attend his first film festival to support the film that he believed in. This is The Interview. It's interesting to realise, as we did a little sort of get to know each other at the start of the interview, that I've been at South by Southwest more times than my next guest, Michael Biehn, who's a well-known figure and face and name in some of the tentpole figures, certainly in my life. It's your first South by.
This is my, not only the first time at South by Southwest, but this is the first film festival that I've ever been to. I've been invited to quite a few of them on independent movies that I've done. You know, back in the old days, back when we were doing the Terminator and Aliens and The Abyss and all that kind of stuff, I don't even think Sundance was even around yet. I don't think film festivals were really even happening at that point. But once they started happening, I got invited by the studios that made the movies, or the independent companies that made the movies, but a lot of times I didn't think the films were that good, or I didn't think the part that I played was really that good, and I really didn't want, I don't like to promote something that I don't think is very good. So I basically have been invited to Sundance 3 or 4 times. I've been invited here a couple of times, and this is the first time that I showed up because this is a movie that I really wanted to promote. You know, take 3 or 4 days out of my life and come and promote, because this movie I'm very, very proud of. I think it's just a wonderful, wonderful movie with an incredible ensemble cast, and so yeah, first film festival ever for me.
And had the world premiere last night, which I was there
Yes.
for. We are, of course, talking about The Divide. Let's do a quick 20-second for listeners who might not have come across this film before.
Okay, the movie's basically about 6 or 7 people that get stuck in an underground bunker after a nuclear holocaust, nuclear event takes place up above. They end up getting sealed inside of this bunker, and the food starts running low, and it turns into kind of a Lord of the Flies. Some people turn bad, some people turn good. It gets real ugly, real nasty. Psychologically, as violent of a film that you're ever going to see. There's violence in it, but it's not in the hostile Saw vein. It's violence that happens because of the story, but psychologically it's brutal. It's really dark, and it's about humanity. It's about the journey that Lauren German's character plays from innocence to basically animal and survival, and what you need to do and what you have to go through and the choices you have to make to survive. It's about humanity.
It feels very European, natural with the director, but it's not the sort of thing that I would expect to see in an American film festival. That's wrong, because the film festivals are here bringing lots of films, but it doesn't
feel American to me. It feels more world cinema.
Well, it might be, but I mean, it was directed by Xavier Gens, and Xavier did Frontiers, and he's a French filmmaker, and it is, I think it's the music, that is the music is wonderful in the movie, and he really let the actors, unlike any other show I've ever done before, he just let the actors go. He basically had a structure for the movie, and then he would just, throw us into a scene or throw us into a rehearsal and say, just play it as your character. And the scenes would evolve. And it's not like we had a script, per se. We had a script, but we just basically threw that out and improv basically the whole deal. And you get a character like Michael Eklund's character in it, who's really brilliant in the movie. He wasn't even hardly in the script. I mean, when I read the original script, he had like a couple of lines, and Milo and Michael are just brilliant in the movie, and Rosanna's great. Everybody across the board they just gave great performances. And I don't know if it's the style of Xavier, but we were able to have so much freedom as actors that it was very organic, and so I don't know if that gives it a European style or if it's the music or just the way he shot it, but it was a very organic feeling movie, and there's not a false note in it.
And it is an ensemble cast, but certainly your character, what drew me to him was the fact that audience loyalties just kept switching, even though essentially the character, you could see where he was going. He started off rough, then hero, then villain, then prop. It must have been a joy to play.
It was a joy to play, and it was also, I didn't even know where the character was going. Originally, in the original script, my character was the antagonist all the way through the script, and it was only because I got together with Xavier and the writer, and we worked on the character, and we came up with all the 9/11 stuff, and why he was a bad guy, and why he was down there in that bunker, and why he was paranoid, and that he is a survivor of 9/11, and he was a fireman, and something bad happened there, and there's a backstory of him that got cut out of the movie about him, all his guys getting killed, nothing happening to him, and it freaks him out, and he starts drinking, and he loses his family and his job, and now he's just this paranoid fucking asshole that's down there, But basically, as the movie moved in a direction that, like, because of the improvisational way in which we shot it, he ends up like not really being such a bad guy towards the end of the movie, and he ends up being kind of like lovely, and you end up like thinking, well, this is not the worst. It turns out that Eklund and Milo's character are the ones that, like, when Milo got shot last night, that's when everybody cheered, He was like the bad guy. But in the original movie, I was like the antagonist, and it was because we just played with the script, and it took us, like, when writers talk about, like, well, why did you write about this? Well, the character just took me there, and I've never been able to understand that. And I feel that, like, that's the same thing that happened with us, is that like the characters just took the movie in that direction. I liken it to Requiem for a Dream, and it's a really, really interesting movie to watch visually. It's stunningly beautifully directed. It's beautiful to watch. The music is beautiful, but the subject matter is so dark, and the characters become so dark and so ugly and so demented that psychologically it's just, you feel dirty kind of when you leave the theater, and you feel like, wow, could we really go there? Would we really go there under these circumstances? And so it's something that I think that it's like a car wreck.
And watching it with a festival, you said first festival, what does that do to you, watching on screen, the character develop on screen, and then we mentioned there one character being shot. What's the energy in that room like?
Well, the screening last night is like, it was difficult for me because I've never been in a screening before that was like, some people were buyers, some people were with us, our group was in there, and so it was difficult for me to get a real read on what the audience like kind of really felt. I had a couple people that I didn't know. I had one guy come up to me and say, this is one of the best movies I've ever seen. And I said, well, thank you. And he said, and I'm working distribution, so I've seen like 3,000 movies. So I called Xavier over and I said, Xavier, you got to hear this. And then the guys from, what's the name of the website that they stuck around?
Fanboy.com.
Fanboy.com, yeah. Bigfanboy.com. And we had spent the day previous doing an interview with them, and I talked up the movie and told them how good I thought it was going to be. So they were expecting something really good. They needed to be someplace, and they canceled that just to wait 20 minutes to talk to me, to tell me that they were like, and their mouths were like open. They were like, dude, that was like awesome, man. That was just fucking awesome, you know. Even though you built it up for us, it was awesome. So, and I'm just hearing, I just heard as we were walking down the hallway that sales, but that's what they're doing here, is they're trying to sell the movie. So lots of interest, they're selling it. So that means the people that were here to look at the movie to buy it are bidding on it, and I'm sure that the Rollo family, who financed most of this, and Darren and Ross and everybody that's involved in from that stamp, Kevin, are thrilled.
Michael Biehn there from 2011, talking about the post-apocalyptic film The Divide. Here in the United Kingdom, it's available to rent or buy through Apple TV and Amazon. For our international listeners, check your local listings for details. As always, the podcast is going to be a mix of from the archive and also new material. We've got some of that coming up in the next few episodes. So as always, link, love, share and subscribe to never miss anything, either as it goes down the podcast feed or as it pops up on my YouTube channel. But for now, thank you for your ears. That was The Interview. You've been listening to The Interview, a Spence Media production, hosted by Ewan Spence. Find out more at ewanspence.co.uk.